The statement which almost all Linux enthusiasts use to get the Macians to use Linux instead of Windows is malicious software. Linux users, from my experience, tend to think that Linux is a hyper-secure OS with barely any security flaws. Well, that is a lie. I want to make clear first, the Linux distros out there, I'm making this video on Linux Mint, for example. Just use the OS you want, but saying Linux will make you unhackable is just false in so many ways. Want to know why it is false? Linux has malware. Here, I just wrote one for this example. It's on screen now. Saying Linux doesn't have any is a foolish claim. Everything that runs software can get a malicious piece of software. There are just less out there for Linux, which I will get to later why it is really so. And it's not because of security. But on screen is a list of Linux viruses from Wikipedia. Linux computers aren't even that secure compared to others. Just because Linux is an open source OS doesn't mean it's free from exploits. It is free from backdoors. That's the difference. Someone can still make a coding mistake and let it stay there for years. The advantage that comes from being open source is that no glowy advocate agency can go and write a backdoor into it, and it is far easier to find these exploits since the source code is public. Just an in-between tangent. The company most Linux users despise are what makes it possible. The Linux Foundation isn't getting that money from thin air, but from sponsors. This is also why I believe that if Linux ever really makes a mistake, there will be no fork, because there is no financial backing for that fork, and its source code is a spaghetti. Linux is completely on the whim of corporate interests, which can back out whenever Linux threatens a market share. Anyway, enough that. What I was saying brings me to another point. Did anyone ever, watching this video, look at the Linux source code? I know I haven't. Do you know what else I know every Linux user does do? Read the source code of what they are running as root. This is also what gets so many Windows computers infected. Running programs with root just because it's prompted to. I also make this mistake of not thinking about when to run something as root and not. But multi-user systems don't really have that big of an advantage compared to single users, even if you don't run anything as root. This XKCD comic puts it pretty well. However, that's just my opinion. I'm not a security expert or something. Once a program runs, it's already over if it is a well-designed piece of malware. And that is how computer malware actually works. They work from digital illiteracy. Most pieces of malware on the internet don't actually go into some Windows 11 laptop and then infect the device. The user installed the piece of malware themselves. Software can't just get root privileges on Windows with a super secret register key added. The user gives it. There's no magical hacker being which can target that laptop running an older version of Windows 11 will get hacked. Here's the truth about the Linux never gets malware concept. What truly makes Linux secure for users is that the Macians using it likely are tech illiterate. However, that doesn't mean the Linux distros actually are secure by themselves. The security of obscurity isn't even true. So many Macians nowadays run Linux tests, pretty big market. However, the odds of it being targeted is lower because, as I said before, Linux users aren't as tech illiterate. The main targets are in reality Linux servers for web nonsense. Those have the valuable bandwidth and cores and the info that any botnet wants. Of course, there are other advantages that makes it less likely to get malware, like an actual repository of false software, something Windows can't seem to figure out since you have to go to a zillion websites to install anything. It also suffers from a bad case of having no privilege scheme. An example of an OS which has figured it out well is Android, where they file manager privileges and microphone privileges, something I believe Windows should implement. What I'm trying to say is that despite Linux having advantages to prevent stupid mistakes, you can still blow your leg off, just like every other OS out there. True security begins with tech literacy, not by preventing a magical hacker beam. Despite all my claims, one may wonder, which OS is then the most secure OS there is? Well, simply put, that is Chrome OS. Though Chrome OS is technically just Gentoo with who cares. What makes Chrome OS, according to my opinion, the most secure OS out there is because it's start-proof. I have had a Chrome, right now I don't use it, and it actually required so many hoops to just do anything. Every program in Chrome OS runs in a special sandbox. If you want to run any viable programs as a normie, you have to use this Crostini thing or go to the Play Store. You can't install APTs. And the Crostini thing, it's just Debian in a virtual machine. If you actually want to get an advanced experience, you want to remove a screw from the bottom of your Chromebook, reset the whole thing, and now every time you boot, you get a big warning about how the OS is insecure now. And it doesn't just pass, you have to actually Control-D and then the system boot. You have to have a double-digit IQ to get hacked on Chrome OS. But you can still get hacked. You can install a dodgy Chrome extension, and that's how you blow your leg off on Chrome OS. So that brings me at the fact that at the end of the day, the biggest security threat for computers are its users. Thanks for watching. Again, would appreciate it if you followed/subscribed. Since I'm a serial cloud chaser, leave a comment so I can read. I already wrote the script for my next video and drew all the drawings, but it was 10 times easier to just produce this one so YouTube doesn't see my channel as a dead for not uploading so long. I'll probably go on and off with tech and non-tech videos, see which one are more fun. Bye!